Public Q&A presents AskReddit question. Elie Wiesel said, neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. What experience do you have that validates this? My mother was abusive and no one, out of the family, friends, and church community who witnessed her physical, violent outbursts, ever stepped in to stop her. My dad knew my stepmom was abusing me. When I was 15, he decided that I had to put up with it because if he told her to stop, she wouldn't sleep with him. And still people tell me to consider his perspective but won't consider mine, where my father, my parent, let abuse happen to me because he didn't want to get involved. After I left and they got divorced, a ton of people told me they knew she was abusing me but figured it wasn't their business to stop her or even talk to my family about it. Multiple people knew I was abused for 17 years. But it wasn't their business. Your dad choose sex over his son? This is the simpiest shit I have ever heard in my life. Daughter, but yeah. He sat down with me like we were going to have a big talk and literally said, I need you to put up with it for my sake. I immediately started bawling. I knew shit was about to get so much worse. He had 2 more kids with her before I left. Less than a year after I moved out, they were divorced. He couldn't handle her behavior when it was directed at him for 1 year, but I put up with it for 17. Hey, this son of a bitch is going to get old, and I don't want you to forget what he did. You hear? Leave the bastard to the mercy of that ass and her 2 kids. He's remarried to a really nice lady, and I super hopes she leaves his ass. She's far too kind for him, and I think the only reason they're together is because she's out of state half the week for work. He's a decent dad as long as he's married to your mom, but once they're divorced you're not his priority anymore, something he literally said to my younger sister when he divorced her mom. You're not my priority anymore. She was 14. Let him rot. Any experience of being bullied in high school, especially when physical assault is involved? Neutrality, or punishing both students when one complains against another, gives the aggressive party, if their aim is to make life hard for the victim, no opportunity cost of doing so. If the victim doesn't tell, they get hurt, and if they do tell, they still get hurt. My school resource officer was the best for this. Guy had a zero tolerance policy for bullying, and somehow even less tolerance for collective punishment. I never had the pleasure of sitting in on a meeting where he told parents their son or daughter was a morally defunct degenerate and reflected poorly on the parents, but also that if there was retaliation he'd ensure the school expelled the student. To this day I don't know if he had that power, but people believed he did. This gave me hope. My teachers enabled bullies and blamed victims. Good job, you pieces of trash. It has never bothered me that much when a student disrespects me as a teacher. Eventually they understand that teachers are humans too. But I have shown my feelings on bullying, sometimes surprised a kid who thought just because I tolerate their annoying behaviors that they can walk all over another kid. Nope, sorry, you're not going to do that. Sorry that happened to you. Teachers need to build respect and tear down bullies, not build them up. I am the same way. Treat me like shit all day long. I get paid to deal with your bullshit. Go after another student. I am about to make your life hell. Once you start getting bullied you might as well just kick the shit out of them. You're going to get in trouble either way. Yup. I got raised on don't fight back, you'll be just as bad as they are. Got picked on for a few years until I went oh fuck this and kicked the living shit out of a guy who tried to fight me because I was looking at him. And that was basically the end of it. I had one more fight in school with one of the guy's friends because apparently I got lucky. He was the biggest kid in the school, but I just went all out. I wouldn't say I won, but he sure as hell didn't either. We both needed medical attention. But after then nobody was willing to push me to fight. They knew it would end with everyone getting hurt, and that was that. Couldn't believe it. I would spend months, years, stressing out over this shit because no matter how reasonable I was and no matter how I tried to talk to them about it and other shit, it didn't stop. 2 fights that were over in minutes, and I was left alone. This. Exactly this. My stepmom was abusive to my brother and I. She was an alcoholic and bipolar. She did things like forcing me to eat out of the garbage or beat me. It wasn't just the physical stuff but the mental games. One day she'd act nice and kind and the next call me, a 6-year girl, every name in the book. I told my dad and he didn't believe me. Then she did it in front of him, and he would do nothing. I would look to him for help, break down crying, and he did nothing. Because she had free rein, she took her anger out on my brother and I. Because of that, even though I love my dad, I'll never forgive him for not leaving her. I'll hate her till the day I die. A part of me will always resent him too. I have panic disorder and horrible anxiety as an adult. I am in therapy. However, I still wake up in the middle of the night adrenaline pumping because I had a nightmare about her. I self-mutilated almost all of my teen years. I was suicidal and it took me many years to get to the point where I wasn't considering different plans of killing myself on a daily basis. A counselor told me the worst thing a parent can do to their child is to be inconsistent, show love one day, and the next day deprive the child of love. She said it has worse effects in adulthood even compared to parents who were consistently negligent, because at least the child knew what to expect. I am sorry you went through that and I sincerely hope you can overcome your childhood scars. I am rooting for you. That's terrifying, mostly because I have no idea if I can monitor my consistency. That fact that you're thinking about it right now shows you can, just recalibrate. Go easy on yourself because you do care, and that's awesome. Consistency in parenting doesn't mean always responding exactly the same way. It means responding variably but still within the range of healthy emotional expression. It's okay to have days where you unexpectedly lose your cool, as long as you make sincere efforts to repair the harm, and avoid allowing it to become a pattern. Basically just consistently love your kid. It's okay if the level of engagement or expression varies by the day. Yes, and never underestimate the importance of apologizing to your child when you are wrong. So true. My dad would consistently get mad or angry at me for some stupid shit, but then turn around and be super nice right after while I was still recovering from his anger. It threw me the fuck off. So it's not weird to be mildly clueless when my mom can from damn near threatening to kill me to literally in the next breath talking and laughing with friends like the past 5 minutes were a glitch in the matrix, and her emotions literally have an immediate fucking toggle switch. Sorry Ro, hear that, hope you get better. Thank you. I am doing my best to get better. Wonderful. I grew up in an abusive family. My father is a violent man. He would hit me every time he gets drunk, and my mother would always do nothing. For years, I begged her to help me, maybe get out of the house or leave my father. She's basically the enabler, and she would always just stood there, straight-faced, while my drunkard father beat the hell out of me. I will never forgive her for doing nothing all this time. I have a somewhat similar story. My mom did nothing because she was very religious, and she thought it was her obligation as a wife to go along with whatever her husband wanted. Ephesians 5:22 and all that. There's a few other verses with a similar message. Also, my dad doesn't drink. He just used violence whenever he thought his control was being threatened. If you happened to say something he didn't agree with, or if you misunderstood, or were unsuccessful in following his orders, or if the orders were faulty and didn't have the result he wanted, those were cause for a beating. Sometimes he just beat us for the hell of it. His exact words were to keep you humble, and to keep you from getting arrogant. Later on there was even a time when he'd just decide we were thinking things he didn't like, and beat us for that. The part about dad smacking us around and mom doing nothing is the same though. What religion were you? I had the same experience in Mormonism. We were Catholic. I hope you're not living with those monsters anymore. The next phrase from that quote says, silence encouraged the tormentor, never the tormented. Sometimes, we must interfere. I am deeply sorry for what happened to you, and I understand why you can't forgive your mother. So, I was badly bullied. I was self-harming, a redhead, and have always been chubby. Tried to tell one of my teachers about the fact that I was literally being told to go kill myself on the regular. Teacher in a nutshell told me that I was making myself a target because of my weight or hair color. To this day, it's been 10 years, I still have issues with respecting authority thanks to that teacher. I am now clean of self-harm and finally on appropriate meds. I am still chubby, but now it's not so bad. It's a good thing that you don't hurt yourself anymore. Fuck that teacher. Making yourself a target through weight and hair color, excuse me, bitch. That is a terrible form of victim blaming. Good on you for escaping from self-harm. I was an organizer of a language exchange group, and one of the other organizers had about a dozen people coming forth with complaints of sexual harassment and bullying. I keep reporting him to the milquetoast person that was in charge, nothing happens, and then the harasser gets outed elsewhere by someone else. I get in trouble for reporting him in the first place because it made the group look bad, and that it's the fault of anyone harassed for not saying no clearly enough. Creep gets kicked out, starts his own group, and last I heard has been routinely abusing his modicum of power and harassing every woman participating. This reminded me of my experience with D&D in a weird way. I was DMing for a group of 5 to 8 homebrew campaigns and just really putting a lot of time and effort in. I definitely wasn't always the best DM. Sometimes my combats were too hard or lacked flavor. Or I fudged rolls behind the screen so my one problem player would stop destroying everything everyone else was working on. Hanging out after D&D. One of the dudes I am a lady drops that he's been trying anal with his girlfriend. And he can tell she's in pain and uncomfortable, but she could at least perform a little so he can cum. Because it's not like I can go back to her pussy without risk of an infection. Told him that it was super rapey and gross. He got super butthurt that I said he was being rapey. That was what was really important. Not that he pressured his girlfriend into sticking his dick in her ass, and when she was visibly in pain, he kept going. Group of players just fucking hushed up and didn't say anything. Kept playing together after I left. And that's one reason I don't DM or play D&D anymore. Nope. The dudes who don't shower you can smell for. The dudes who hold crazy toxic viewpoints that you have to wait a few sessions to find out are way too common. I used to spend so much time painting miniatures, drawing my own maps, creating clues and puzzles, world building, etc. DMing is so fun. But fuck how toxic the community can be. I think I would only DM ever again if it was all women. That fucking sucks, I am sorry it happened. If you want to DM a women-only group, you could post on subreddit LFG. Lots of people want to play, and it's not rare to see mandatory requirements such as being LGBTQ and friendly, so asking for non-toxic or misogynistic people wouldn't look unusual. Also sad that people should have to request these things face with rolling eyes. I DM and I fudge rolls behind the screen all the time to make sure things are more fair to my players. That makes a DM good immo. The anal guy is rapey, and that's a disgusting behavior, unempathetic as fuck. And if you can't go back because of a risk of infection, then you need to wash your junk cause that's fucking disgusting. I do hope you can enjoy D&D again. It's fun as hell with the right people, but that's the thing, with the right people. I am a guy and I have left groups because some players are gross either physically or mentally. The only real reason why I play now is because friends I have made independent of D&D wanted to play, so I knew they wouldn't be complete nut jobs. Going back probably refers to the risk of infection when you go from a bacteria-laden ass to the sensitive vagina. It's why, for instance, my nurse practitioner mother taught me to wipe front to back and never the reverse. More to the point, if your partner is in non-consensual pain and uncomfortable, you should just stop. If you really need to come, then self-service. Edit. Typo. People are so stupid, and it's really sad that that happened to you. I am a DMF2 for a mostly male party, but luckily they are amazing people, and I haven't had to deal with any bullshit. When I was in school, I was bullied relentlessly by other kids, and was always told to ignore them or they'll bully you more. I tried it that way, and even when the bullying got physical, the teachers did nothing. One day I was already having a rather bad day, given that my grandpa was dying of cancer. One of the kids laughed and told me my grandpa was going to burn in hell. My sorrow turned into unbridled rage, and the kid ended up face-planting on concrete, when I grabbed him, threw him down, and started jumping up and down on him. The teacher watched him taunting and laughing at me, and did nothing. He came to life when I got to stomping. The teacher's logic: sticks and stones. So I called him a limp dick coward for standing around and watching the bully, then said, "Stick and stones." I got a week off from school for the remark. I never did forget how it felt to be so consumed by hate and anger, and how good it felt to stomp that bastard. I eventually adopted a policy of always stopping bullies with force, whether it was to insult them back when they insulted me, or trying to beat their ass if they laid a hand on me. After a few fights, people started leaving me alone because I was no longer the easiest of targets. I wish I had done that. A classmate and I both had grandpas going through cancer treatments at the same time. Mine passed away, and when I came back to school, the classmate told me, "My grandpa survived because he's strong. If you're not strong, you die." I so wanted to punch him. I instead left the room. Of course, got in trouble for leaving the classroom, so I should have punched him anyway. Leaving the room to calm down instead of reacting with violence. That kind of emotionally intelligent and responsible behavior has no place here at school. Just a week. It was my first offense, I guess. I figured I would have been in more trouble for trying to stomp the life out of a rat bastard. So I was bullied in grade school for being the only guy with curly hair on my class. I reported it multiple times to my teachers, but they never did anything. It totally ruined my confidence, because there's nothing I could do about my hair except to just shave it every other month. My teachers encouraged me to shave it in order to prevent the bullying from happening. One day, I got tired of their bullshits and punched and bit two of my classmates, and boom. They all freaked out. They didn't allow me to go to school for 3 weeks, and they forced me to apologize to them. Approach to bullying is the best example for this. I also hate schools for that exact reason. The way they handle cases about bullying is unforgivable. I am a master's student in education, and this is actually a huge point we're covering in some of my classes now. For way too long, the consensus among teachers and administrators was that you should stick to technical parts of the job and avoid becoming a moral example. Always be a neutral party, only address stuff like bullying when it disrupts class, etc. But what we look at now is that teachers are moral examples regardless of whether they try to be, and so by remaining neutral you just influence students towards a not my problem attitude. It's the David Foster Wallace thing: if you're not intentional about what you're putting out there, then you're probably defaulting to your instincts. Teachers. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Edmund Burke. Remember this for the test next week. Also, teachers, when informed that you are a victim of bullying, more like, "Administration will fire me." This is why it's so hard to find good teachers. We offer them shit pay, huge amounts of work, and then the terrible ones that have been working at the same school since 1982 all bully the new hires into leaving, or becoming so disenfranchised that they change vocations. Old, crappy teachers are equally, if not more insidious than bad administrators. somebody actively hitting you, and if you even put your hands up to block them, it's called a fight, and you trying to defend yourself earns you a suspension. Saw that a lot, and the school's expectation was for you just to take it. Or in middle school when guys would constantly pop a female's bra strap at random so hard she has bruises and such. Yep, same mentality. So much of this, in 7th grade I had my breast grabbed and pinched every day in science class by the boy who sat next to me. Every time I reported it. I was told boys will be boys, and what did I expect? I had developed early, the school made it clear that it was 100% my fault. So one day Jay sharpened my fingernails to sharp point, and as soon as he grabbed me, I dig in, blood everywhere. I got 2 weeks suspension, but it was so worth it. That's insane. One time a friend of mine was standing in the lunch line, and this kid just walking up and grabbed her breast really hard. She reacted by punching him in the face. It was all caught on camera, but she got suspended because he was a special ed student who didn't know any better. Add on to the fact that this same kid was caught hiding under the tables, where he would then grab unsuspecting girls in the crouch. This was repeated incidents with different victims every time. Yes, he was special ed, but a 2-day suspension considering the camera evidence was like wow. Reminds me of a special ed student in my elementary school. He would frequently expose himself to the female students, and would start peeing on us if we were sitting somewhere outside. This one time during recess, I was going to play in the forest behind the school building, and I saw him standing in front of an upperclassman. He was pushing her towards the edge of a cliff. I was only 8 to 9 years old, and I didn't know what to do in that situation because I was afraid of him. He was bullied by being called the R word. I knew it was a bad word that you shouldn't use. I also knew that it would upset him, so I yelled at him and called him bad words to get his attention. He started to run after me, so I ran to the yard to the nearest teacher I could find and told them what happened. They managed to restrain him, and we were all brought in to speak with the principal, who ordered me to detention. I know that I deserved it because I did say something awful. But I also wonder what would have happened if I had not done that. Would he have pushed her off the cliff? What if she had got hurt from the fall or even died? I am sure I could have handled the situation better, but I was young and wasn't thinking clearly. In the end, I am just happy that I did something. I don't know why boys will be boys is a catch-all response for basically all conflict between boys and girls. They make it sound like boys are supposed to harass their female classmates. Like it's not normal if you don't. This is the kind of problem that you'd think wouldn't even exist at all, but here we are. I can understand the boys will be boys argument under the age of 8, but after that is when basically everyone should understand the concept of personal space and boundaries to some degree. And schools seem take one of two actions for basically anything. No, don't do that, or 3-week suspension and apology letter written to the family and read aloud to the class. I am not a girl, so I can't imagine how stuff like that feels, but I know what you are talking about and have seen similar tales play out. From where I am not us that sexual harassment, and the boy would have been out of the school the moment I made a formal complaint. We also wore uniforms, so there was absolutely no way anyone could make a point of revealing clothes or stupid bullshit like that. So sorry you had to go through something like that. And if you even put your hands up to block them, it's called a fight, and you trying to defend yourself earns you a suspension. Stop resisting arrest. Sad that it seems schools either take one of two routes. Do nothing and hope it goes away. Zero tolerance, punish everyone. It's the dumbest, laziest fucking thing, and made me hate going to school sometimes as the token fat kid with hand-me-down clothes. My high school's solution to kids being late to class was for them to be put into a separate room with all the other kids that were late to class. As some sort of punishment or something. It never made sense to me. If we were late in high school, most teachers would lock the door as soon as the class started so you couldn't get in, so being late counted as an absence. Why they never figured that it made it so if you were going to be late to a class by 1 minute you just didn't go. Glad it wasn't just me. I remember in grade 9 being late to my second period class on the first day. I had to talk to my first period teacher about something after the bell rang. Got there 5 minutes late and started trying to explain. Was told go down to the office and tell them you need detention for being late. So of course I just went home until after lunch. What was I going to do in detention on the first day? I just started forging my late notes, which worked great until I got called to the principal and my mom was there. But hey, I didn't design their shitty system. I just made it work for me, and they are never going to let that fly. Public schools are literally designed on turn-of-the-century industrial revolution models. You're being conditioned to blindly obey, shut the fuck up at your desk, and perform menial tasks that do little to aid actual enduring learning. You're late. Well, you don't get to learn today. You're late. Here, have a lounge to chill in and socialize while the nerds are have to sit down and learn in a socially restricted setting. Well, fine, well, just stay home. No way, we need you in school because we value your education. Value your education, aka no child left behind, so we have high school graduates that are functionally illiterate. Just pass M, they can be XTH grades problem. The school I work at is finally addressing this issue. Instead of in-school suspension, it's working on getting them to school on time and ready to learn. Because honestly, having students who are poor be punished for missing the bus, but still finding a way to come to school is bullshit. The schedule that schools seem to want to adhere to is not helpful to learning either. If I recall correctly, it was something like 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., meaning students were getting up around an hour and a half before sunrise to get ready and be bussed in. Dead tired for 4 years of my life running on caffeine and sugar to get through it all. Thank God I work a job that starts at 2 p.m. In elementary school, if you came into class late, were late, you had to go to the principal's office and have the secretary fill out a tardy slip. They asked why you were late and had to write it on the slip. Depending on how many kids were late, this could take like 10 minutes. I never understood why the teacher couldn't just mark you late. You miss more class time by having to go to the office to fill out the tardy slip. And they made you feel so bad for being late. Oh, not only was I late to class because I was asking about college from another teacher. They put all the tardy kids in the cafeteria to give them a 1.5 hours talk on the problems of tardiness. This was right before Milk Weekend. The VP says Martin Luther King wouldn't have been tardy. WTF. Like, because he was too busy writing letters from jail. I only got detention once, and it was for tardiness to my first period class in 7th grade. Because I, a 13-year-old, have so much control over when my parents drop me off. My high school did the same thing. Even if I was just 5 minutes late, I would lose the entire first class. One time there were so many of us late that we wouldn't even fit in the cafeteria where we were supposed to wait. Never worked as a punishment, total waste of time and space. Well, you must have done something to make them do this to you. I can't believe that was the response. What sucks even more is that you can't go after someone for mishandling cases. That's pretty much how bullying was handled in my school when I was growing up. Do nothing, and then when the victim fights back, punish them or both parties, as if the previous incidents never happened. One of the many things that destroyed my trust in people, and certainly in authority, was the teachers at the school I attended. My parents also did a good job of that, but that wasn't exactly an example of neutrality. I had a similar experience, but was bullied for being overweight and quiet. I became a teacher to prevent that happening for as many kids as I could. They forced me to apologize to them. I assume the teachers thought the bullies were completely innocent and you attacked them for no reason. No, teachers assumed that it isn't fair for me to do that because they thought that teasing me and calling me names is harmless. They also liked to tug my hair, and no, I didn't attack them for no reason, aside from the previous bullying. That day, my friend told me that he heard them talking about my mother's hair. I confronted them about it. They started to call me names again about me being partially bald now. If I remember it correctly, they poked my forehead and my newly shaved head. My advisor knew what happened. I am proud that I bit them and punched them. Worth the broken knuckles. Sad to say, they are larger than me, so they punched back, and one of them slashed my backpack. They also liked to tug my hair, and no, they poked my forehead and my newly shaved head. They literally put their hands on you, which I thought was wrong. No, the teachers were just covering their own ass and making sure no parent has a reason to complain about their perfect little angel getting attacked. Came here to say something similar. I was bullied all through grade school, and the administration refused to do anything whenever I reported it. I was told I needed to grow a thicker skin, that the person was only joking, and that if I ignore them, they'll go away. None of those things were true. Turns out, as long as the bully and/or their friends think it's funny, they're still getting the validation they seek, so that behavior is going to continue, and will very likely escalate in time. Which is exactly what happened in my case. I am sorry you went through that. Especially for something as innocuous as your hair texture. It's complete bullshit that bullying is normalized and validated, and victims get branded as the problem when they stand up for themselves. Grow a thicker skin is so damaging. It literally tells a victim of abuse to just numb their emotions, and that's very harmful, especially for a child or teenager. It's asking the victim to change themselves instead of telling the abuser to stop being abusive. I am sorry that happened to you, and I hope you're in a better place now. Or, my teachers encouraged me to shave it in order to prevent the bullying from happening. One day, I got tired of their bullshits and punched and bit 2 of my classmates, and boom. They all freaked out. They didn't allow me to go to school for 3 weeks, and they forced me to apologize to them. Approach to bullying is the best example for this. That's not being neutral. That's victim blaming. They wouldn't bully you about your hair if you didn't have any is just as bad as she shouldn't have dressed like that if she didn't want to get raped. I would say it's more akin to demanding girls with large breasts bind their chests to avoid unwanted attention. It's literally a body part they're being asked to alter for other people's comfort. Either way, it's victim blaming, which teachers should not partake in. Similar thing happened to me in school, except it didn't go to the teachers, and the bully and his friends beat the shit out of me on my way to home. But something changed, they stopped bullying me. Noon touches a person who fights back. It taught me a valuable lesson. Never bow down. I don't usually recommend violence to anyone, but unfortunately you are right. They never touched me again after that. Should have fisted the fucking principal too. Fisted. Well, that is a bit of an escalation. An escalation in relationship. They went from principal to principal with benefits. Telling people about how my ex raped me, and they stayed neutral because he was nice to them or because they were friends with him before me. When a gay man left my abuser, also a gay man, I had a friend tell me that she was staying friends with him by saying, "I don't think he's dangerous." Yeah, not to you. Yeah, I don't understand how it's so inconceivable to some people to grasp that a person can be evil behind closed doors. I am sorry you had to deal with all of that. He was nice to them, WTF. It's pretty common actually. People don't want to get involved, or they don't want to believe their friend would do that. It's fucked up. I unfortunately have to agree from my own personal account that it really is more common than people think. Sorry you had to go through that. Friends of my ex said he would never hurt a fly. Even after he went to jail for punching me in the face. I have a very recent yesterday example. My daughter 14 sits behind what she thought was a good friend of hers. The teacher had said something and my daughter didn't quite understand what she said, so she reached up and poked her friend in the side to get her attention. When she didn't respond, she tapped her on the shoulder. Apparently said friend wasn't in a good mood, jumped up, slapped my daughter in the back of the head multiple times, and ran out of the room. My daughter went to the principal and to the nurse. The principal called the other girl's parents but not me or my wife. Come to find out, he didn't find it worth mentioning because he believed my daughter asked for what she got by poking the other girl. A little more digging turned out facts that the girl's parents and him own a business together. I have an appointment with the county school board tomorrow. Edit. Appointment is in an hour, it'll let you fine folks know how it goes. Edit. Keeping this as short as possible, principal is on paid leave pending investigations. I am not the first to have a major grievance apparently. Girl is suspended for 5 days and moved to a different class. Teacher that was in charge at the time is going through training on handling kids. In that situation they singled him out because he didn't pursue the girl out of the room or even bother to ask what happened. He had no clue what was going on. I am not pursuing any legal course of action. I just wanted the actions and inactions of the staff involved to be brought to light. I am satisfied with the situation's resolution. Just wait till your school board head is golf buddies with your principal. That's how life is usually unfair. Bring a lawyer and threaten to sue them all personally. Bureaucrats would whore their mother out to save $1 and their position. Personally, I would just make certain to get each and every one of them to record their full name and mailing address, and only offer the singular response when questioned. You'll be contacted by my legal counsel in an official capacity soon. Subtle and terrifying. The only thing a bureaucrat actually fears is the bureaucracy itself working against them, because they know full well how it could devour them whole, and grind them to nothing in the uncaring gears. Let their imaginations run wild. Good fucking move. Reminds me of the time when my 4th grade teacher outed me for anything to get me to do work. Literally got death threats from him telling the class to insult me on my birthday, and the principal didn't do anything besides punish the kid, because the teacher was retiring, and they didn't want to fuck over his retirement. Why do some people even go into teaching? I am assuming they can't get a job doing anything else and get a teaching certificate. Yikes. I think generally they sour on the job. Despite the stereotype, teaching is almost never a last resort for people. I have worked in education in a variety of roles and have seen it a lot. We glorify teaching a lot. We say that it's a noble, selfless profession filled with people that are passionate about the work, and even though they need to be paid better, there is an inherently rewarding element to inspiring young minds. The reality is that it's fucking hard. The hours are brutal outside of the classroom. The administration, even if they are some of the best, can only help you so much and frequently actively hinder you. There's never enough budget in the school for you to truly succeed, so you buy supplies out of your already meager salary, and get stuck with obscene class sizes that you could barely teach even if all the students wanted to be there, and most of them don't. So you have to work extra hard to motivate them, and a significant portion won't just be ungrateful for that, they'll be actively hostile towards you, and revel in making your job harder. The amazing teachers have an unmatched skill for dealing with all that. The average teachers have versatile methods for coping with all that. The bad teachers encounter that and break. They get frustrated that nothing they're doing works, and feel trapped because they've worked hard to get there and don't know what else to do, so they lash out at everyone and latch onto any control they can get. It's gross, and administrations need to be able to recognize that and intervene, because those people shouldn't be teaching, but it's not hard to see how it can happen. They are allowed to continue because we've removed all the financial incentives that would normally draw in top talent. If we paid teachers $100,000, you think admins would be stuck with the toxic personalities that mentally checked out of the job 25 years ago? Nah, they'd chuck those blue hairs and move right on. Yeah, I have so much social anxiety because of him. If I saw him again, I would sue him for emotional damages, or whatever I could get him with. That's heartbreaking. I hope you're seeing someone. I have a daughter with social anxiety, so I understand how devastating that can be. Good luck. For people like that, it's because they've always been bullies at heart, and being in a position where none of their victims can fight back is enormously satisfying. It especially appeals to passive-aggressive bullies who would never ever touch someone in anger but love fucking with their victims' heads. Sorry, what part of this is neutral? I just wanted to say that you seem like a good dad. Keep it up. I am 25, and I would be terribly shocked and hurt to have experienced what this guy's child just experienced. I am sure it means the world to her to have her dad standing up for her. Even as an adult, it would mean the world to me. I used to be a cashier at a grocery store, so I get mad when I see people being rude to them. When I lived in Canada for a bit, I was standing in line at a store to buy something, and the behind me started getting angry about having to wait, and then he dropped the old "she should go back where she came from" about the obviously non-white cashier. I couldn't stop myself turning around, and in my most broad Aussie accent, I said, "She can't help that there's a line, mate." No fucking come back to that one, apparently, because I guess white people don't have to go back to where they came from. Anyway, the cashier thought it was nice of me, and I just said, "Hey, I know you're not allowed to respond, so the least I can do as a customer is tell rude idiots to fuck off on your behalf. If you've got any kind of position of privilege and you can use it to give someone else a voice, even if it's a stupid little interaction like that, just do it." Most of the time people aren't expecting a rebuff for their actions, they don't even think before they say that shit. If you don't say something back, it just normalizes it. I am an Aussie living in the USA, and it blows my mind how many people bitch about immigrants to me, completely not even clocking that I am one. I have a strong accent, too. Because for them, immigrant doesn't mean human being who moved from another country, it means not white person. I was at a neighborhood dinner party, and someone was telling me about how they should just come here legally. I told her how difficult the immigration system is, and she said, "Yes, but you came here legally." I replied, "How do you know that?" Since I would only met her 45 minutes before. She gaped like a trout, and had no comeback to that. I am a German-American dual citizen, and my family and I primarily speak in German to each other. One time at the beach, a white woman overheard us and kept weirdly praising us on being from Germany. But when another family sat nearby us speaking in Spanish, that woman got really nasty and made that "go back to where they came from" comment and looked at us, as if she was expecting us to agree. I just stared at her in silence until she looked away. We then got up and moved away from her. Too many times I have experienced things like this in America. Ew, gross. I get people praising me for coming here legally, saying, "See, it's not so hard," then immediately tell me to go back to Australia if I point out ways Australia does things better, such as healthcare. LOL, yeah, these types tend to get very touchy if you dare give the slightest suggestion that any other country is better than America in any way. I have met an embarrassingly high amount of Americans who truly thought democracy and freedom was unique to America alone. I had a friend in high school who was British, but had put a lot of work into his American accent when he moved here as a kid so he wouldn't get bullied for it. You wouldn't have known he was British if you didn't know him back then or hadn't met his parents. We had another friend who would constantly complain about immigrants, legal or not. He almost had a heart attack when we went over to our British friend's house and he met his parents. Fucking hell, I am an Aussie in the USA, and I could have written your exact post, word for word. I also like to add that I came to steal their jobs too. What do you do for a crust? Pediatric neurosurgeon, eh? I could do that, how hard could it be? My job now. Fuck, this is absolutely spot on. It's always stealing jobs. Oh, okay, thanks Chuck, the high school dropout who can't figure out how to log into Facebook on his phone, who works at the petrol station. Let me know when you'd like my job developing enterprise software. Then yeah. Seriously, half my entire team is Indian because there's more software dev jobs than there are American software devs, Yet Brilli the hairdresser is convinced it's Raj's fault she isn't earning $120,000 per year. I had a friend who was an illegal immigrant from Ireland. White as could be. Got here legally, but when his shit expired he just started and worked manual labor under the table. Now he's married to a lesbian trying to get citizenship that route. If you've got any kind of position of privilege and you can use it to give someone else a voice, even if it's a stupid little interaction like that, just do it. I would say that this is the most important time to do it. Those little micro moments are the easiest to stomp on and easiest way to get people to keep their crap to themselves. Agreed. I do this a lot with other men. Many dudes feel safe making off-color jokes about all kinds of inappropriate shit when they're just around other dudes, and get really surprised and contrite when confronted. You're a good person. Keep that shit up. She should go back where she came from. Was this in Australia or another country evolved from a colony? Because that would be a really hypocritical statement then, lol. Edit. Canada. I can't read, I guess. Anyway, point stands, he was a hypocrite. I believe that the only message bullies will ever get is a mess of violence. I saw this firsthand in my school. There was a kid who wasn't really my friend, but we were nice to each other. This kid was relentlessly bullied by the jocks, or whatever you classify them as. This went on from 5th grade to sophomore year, which was last year. This kid constantly told teachers, and they said there was nothing they could do if they didn't see it happen. Note: there is a huge bias towards the athletes at my school, which would basically make the teachers super nice and forgiving towards the athletes. So one day, after 6 years of verbal and physical abuse, this kid finally had enough. When one of the kids pushed him against the locker, he turned and just knocked his lights out, as well as a few teeth. He kept kicking him on the face and stomach even though he was already out cold. Teachers got there and pulled away. He got suspended and the other kid spent a week in the hospital. When they both came back, there was an investigation, and all of the kids who were present said that the bully clearly started it, and my friend was just defending himself. It's now junior year, and absolutely no one messes with him anymore. Late edit, but this wasn't at my current school, but a different school I went to for freshman year. A friend of mine pointed out that he didn't know him, and I realized my mistake. Your friend's a badass. And that's the result of not simply tell children to be human and better people. But my little Johnny's an angel, it must be the other kid's fault. So many moms at my school were like this. No, Linda, your kid's a POS. Relevant background. Elie Wiesel was a Holocaust survivor who went on to win the 1986 Nobel Prize for Peace. Ops quote is from Wiesel's Nobel acceptance speech. Other Nobel Peace Prize winners have expressed similar thoughts. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. Desmond Tutu quoted in Unexpected News. Reading the Bible with Third World Eyes, 1984. I agree with Dante that the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who in a period of moral crisis maintain their neutrality. There comes a time when silence becomes betrayal. Martin Luther King, Jr. speech at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, April 30, 1967. Milk said something to the same effect when he talked about the white moderate in the letter from Birmingham jail. I must make 2 honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of good will is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that the present tension in the South is a necessary phase of the transition from an obnoxious negative peace, in which the Negro passively accepted his unjust plight, to a substantive and positive peace, in which all men will respect the dignity and worth of human personality. Actually, we who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive. We bring it out in the open, where it can be seen and dealt with. Like a boil that can never be cured so long as it is covered up, but must be opened with all its ugliness to the natural medicines of air and light, injustice must be exposed, with all the tension its exposure creates, to the light of human conscience and the air of national opinion before it can be cured. Who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice? I have always been in awe of that phrase. He had such an incredible way with words. When you debate a person about something that affects them more than it affects you, remember that it will take a much greater emotional toll on them than on you. For you it may feel like an academic exercise, for them it feels like revealing their pain only for you to dismiss their experience and sometimes their humanity. The fact that you may remain more calm under these circumstances is a consequence of your privilege, not increased objectivity on your part. Who did this come from? That's a really good point. I don't actually know where it's from originally. I heard it from Cara Santa Maria, on a podcast talking about people being dismissive of others in debates, because they have emotional reactions. Night is a great read, everybody should read it when they're learning about the Holocaust. I was bullied when I was younger. The teachers always pretended they were doing the right thing, ignoring it, and not supporting anyone. This is pretty common, even now. A lot of teachers just want the minimum amount of fuss, and forget that kids are experiencing the formative events of their lives in the classroom. Bullying or peer aggression has lifelong consequences, and most schools seem to have just decided it's easier to quiet the victim. A teacher watched me get pushed and fall down a flight of stairs. Just watched it. But silly me, all teachers are perfect angels who just want to help the children learn. During my PhD, I ended up in a toxic relationship with my first supervisor. Pretty much everyone in the department was effectively all you must have both done something wrong, so I am not going to get involved, completely ignoring the power dynamic at play. I ultimately had to transfer supervisors and universities to get out of that environment and finish, because it's not exactly like we were equals. I am obviously summarizing a very complicated and painful situation in just a few lines, but honestly the reactions of other people in that department who could have done something but didn't care enough to do so upset me in the long run more than that supervisors. It's one thing to deal with an asshole who keeps being an asshole, and another when a community you've been a part of for several years just shrugs their shoulders. Preach. Supervisor drama is the worst. From what I hear, it's even worse in academia because it's hard to just up and leave. Pretty hard everywhere. Why did you leave your last job? Personality conflict isn't the answer you want to give, even though it's a valid answer. Sometimes you just don't work well with one person. Also, why didn't you report them to upper management? Because I have seen them retaliate and punish people, and if I am working 3 feet away from them, 8 hours a day, I am not about to bring myself any further into their line of fire. True, but in a PhD thesis that means not finishing your thesis, unless you can find a different supervisor who is willing to supervise you on the same topic. I don't know if it would be easy to be accepted for another PhD position if you quit one, and if you want to stay in academia you need your degree. Being neutral or trying to show with my face and voice I was uncomfortable doesn't make creepy guys go away. I grew up in a family where we didn't really teach boundaries, and I have a hard time with it to this day. Shouting, "Go away. Leave me alone," is the only way to get creepy guys on the street to fuck off every time. Slow creepy smiles, weird walks, and saying weird shit in response gets rid of them too. Barking and unintelligible screaming are also lovely options. I have never tried duck walking away from them while squawking, but I think that would be a decent one to try. That and blowing raspberries while pretending to fart with every step would also work well, I think. People refusing to take sides when they're friends with both parties in a breakup. My ex was emotionally abusive and completely wrecked my self-esteem, but our mutual friends don't want to hear that about him. They still hang out with him and talk about what a great friend he is. It makes me feel like they don't care about how he treated me, and the lasting damage that relationship has done to me. I was coming here to mention situations like this. People who want to be neutral during a breakup when there was abuse are absolutely helping the perpetrator and hurting the victim. When I ended a relationship like that, I let people know they had to choose, and if people wouldn't, I chose for them by cutting them off. I absolutely was not fucking with that. It took enough energy to get out of that relationship that I was not going to be re-victimized by people thinking they could remain neutral without hurting me. Yeah, I wish I had been strong enough to do that. I knew most of them would pick his side, and I would be left with no support system whatsoever since he turned me against all my old friends early into the relationship. All I had left were his. And my self-esteem was so damaged coming out of that relationship, I didn't think I even had a right to ask people to take my side. I made a big deal about how I wasn't going to drag his name through the mud at the time, thinking the right thing to do was to not damage his reputation. So most people still don't actually know the full extent of how he treated me when we dated. I am glad you were strong enough to create some boundaries with people. I would go back to your old friends regardless in that case. Going to be honest, none of them would have made for an effective support system. I am sorry for what happened to you, and I am glad that you are not in an abusive relationship anymore. Honestly, I don't know what to say. Wow. You are still with us. Thanks for being such a nice person. As long as you are here, why not like this video and subscribe to our channel? Also, you can press the bell icon, so you won't miss any future uploads.